Empire. The NFT explosion has zoomed out of the starting blocks, and the paths it takes, they're endless.
If you really want to capture a true fan base, a lot of times you want to kind of abstract the nuances and the difficulties of understanding what blockchain and NFTs really are.
That's Jeremy Bourne, founder of Nft Genius, where creativity, incentivization, and collections are open marketplaces. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Graham Weinstein. This topic has been covered here, and we keep going back to the thought leaders in the space because how much is changing so rapidly. NFTs are a broad topic that encompass so much. Sometimes it's hard to know which part of the business models are worth focusing on at any given moment. Our guest this week is Jeremy Bourne. He is the founder of Nft Genius as we delve into the digital sports marketplace and the secondary marketplace in and around sports and digital collectibles. Hey, Jeremy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about Nft Genius. What do you guys do?
Yeah, well, for those of you out there that don't know what an NFT is, we are in the NFT space, which is basically a digital collectible tied to the blockchain. So, there's been this incredible, transition, especially with COVID and everybody being locked in their homes, starting a couple of years ago, this great acceleration in terms of adoption of digital media. And people obviously working from home and doing what we're doing right now, which is talking over Zoom. As a function of that, there's been this, technology that's been driving a lot of this, as we call it, a Web3 economy in crypto and blockchain, and now NFTs, which are digital collectibles. So Nft Genius is right in the middle of all of that and helping shepherd the next, few million people into the crypto and blockchain space vis-a-vis NFTs.
And you all are helping create, correct? And then secondarily, you have a secondary marketplace that you've grown as well. Why don't we start from the creation process? What are you guys doing and who are you working with?
Yeah, so we got into space a few years back. I've been in crypto in general since about 2016. A few of my co-founders have been in even earlier than that. And we've always just been creating in the space. So whether it's, applications for crypto or crypto traders or putting on contests, once we got into the NFT space, also started creating. And the first thing that we really created was a unique project called Bitcoin Origins. And it was really taking NFTs as these digital assets and creating the story or recreating the story and highlighting the most significant moments of Bitcoin's history. So using these artistic NFTs to tell a story. And that's how we really first got in.
Tell me a little bit about that. What was the story of that?
Yeah, so, there was a pseudonymous creator called Satoshi Nakamoto that created Bitcoin and released a white paper, well over 10 years ago to a small group and mailing list of developers, talking about a new type of currency that was completely decentralized, peer-to-peer, and away from any centralized governing body. So it couldn't be affected by any governments or anything like that. And it was putting the power in the hands of the people and your financial future. So that tended to resonate very, very deeply with some folks. And over time, it gained more and more traction and more adoption. And people realized how powerful this decentralized currency and peer-to-peer trading network was in Bitcoin. And obviously it's turned into what it is today, which is a household name. And, all the way from massive companies that are investing in it to governments creating Bitcoin as its base currency. It's really incredible to see, at least, since I've been involved since 2016, how it's evolved rapidly and really, all the podcasts and everybody who hypothecated in terms of what it could be, it's actually turning into that exactly as people expected. So it's great to be a part of this ride.
And then tell me a little bit about how you were telling that story that became of value. How did you go about that?
Yeah. So, we just decided, generating a grouping of cards, and we wanted to take a line out of, NFT set called NBA Top Shot. They had done an incredible job at signifying, specific moments in NBA history, by plays like LeBron James made or James Harden or something like that, right? And we wanted to take that moment concept and encapsulate that within the set of Bitcoin Origin. So, the first moment is the creation of, the white paper. So, there was 3 different variations of cards and some special inserts, and we treated it like a trading card set. So, like it was a physical card set, but everything was digital. And instead of a pack of cards, you're actually opening a block on the blockchain, and there's this really cool animation. And then there's a story that's interwoven throughout it, and a side story that ended up turning into another set. So, the creation process of this is just like really highlighting a moment and using art to tell the story, and creating a community of people that are really excited about Bitcoin, and also hopefully attracting new folks, that had never heard about it before. And I think we did a great job. So that was our first set that we ever did. We put it on the Wax blockchain, made several $1 million, attracted the likes of, investors like Mark Cuban, who were very excited about seeing people bring storytelling as an element to the NFT space.
Yeah.
And that was an incredible, first round of investment that we had, followed by Anthony Pompliano and Guy Osiri. Roham, the CEO of Dapper Labs, participated in that. So, that really kind of kicked things off for us. And then we just continued creating and building across several blockchains, had multiple successes, and then ultimately landed where we are today, which is, building on Flow and the Flow ecosystem with a deep partnership with Dapper Labs.
You've worked with some athletes as well, Bryson DeChambeau, the top-ranked golfer, and obviously Shaquille O'Neal, one of the great all-time NBA legends. What are those partnerships like, and what are you building with people like that?
Yeah, those partnerships are really great. In essence, people come to Nft Genius and Gaia Marketplace, whether they're athletes, musicians, or large IPs, because they want to come into the NFT space and they want to enter in a really thoughtful way. There's a lot of different marketplaces out there, but if you really want to capture a true fan base, a lot of times you want to kind of abstract the nuances and the difficulties of understanding what blockchain and NFTs really are, right? So in our partnership with Dapper Labs and being the first ever to use the Dapper wallet, which was the wallet that powered NBA Top Shot, you can pay with a credit card. You can pay with a bank transfer, and it's just really easy. So that's why we've partnered with them for this reason specifically, is to allow these brands and to allow other people to come into the space in a really seamless and frictionless way. And for us, that was really, really important. And to create a user experience that is just very, very similar to something you're accustomed to, whether it's an Apple TV or an Amazon or whatever the case may be. We're trying to create experiences that are just easy, frictionless, and allow the masses to come in, purchase NFTs from their favorite brands, athletes, and musicians.
Guys, if you're looking for that extra confidence when it's time to have a little bit of fun, let me tell you about BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service. It delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but it comes in chewable form and it's at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets will help you combat all forms of ED. Plus, it's an online prescription service. No visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, no waiting in line at the pharmacy, and it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is really simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you are approved, you'll receive your prescription within days, and the best part, all done online. Blue Chew's licensed medical providers are going to work with you to find the right ingredient and the strength for your personal subscription. Plus, their tablets are made in the United States. They prepare, they ship direct, and it's so much cheaper than going through a pharmacy. And here's a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code FUTURE, F-U-T-R, at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code FUTURE, F-U-T-R, to receive your first month free. And we thank Blue Chew for being a sponsor of this show. Let's talk about the secondary marketplace, which you've referenced a couple times, Gaia. I think my broad question to you is this. There's been a tsunami of these, and maybe you were at the forefront of it, but What do you think is going to remain of significant value moving forward to customers and fans?
Yeah, I think fundamentally how I think about NFTs, and you're talking about just like the value of these things, right? It's really just based on supply and demand. So if there's the demand for something, obviously it'll have value. I think scarcity is a huge part in this, and this is why Bitcoin is so valuable, right? There's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be, right? And there's way more millionaires in the world than there is Bitcoin. So eventually, obviously, as mass adoption happens, there's going to be more people that want it than there is, and the price will just skyrocket, which we've seen it go from $5 to all the way up to $60,000-$70,000 now back to $40,000. The same thing goes kind of with NFTs, right? There's a certain supply, and if you get the supply and those mechanics right, and you attract an audience and you're able to penetrate a fan base, and I go back to NBA Top Shot, it's a great example of the NBA, and you're releasing these cards over time, then it creates value because the economic value is also tied to the community. So if the community is expanding, then overall the value of those cards will go up. Now, the beauty is with NFTs and why it's just so transformational comparatively to just a traditional, collectible, like a collectible trading card, is because we look at these things like mini supercomputers, right? It's something that you can program to do whatever you want. So you can have an NFT that is even tied to, real location-based marketing type of events, right? So if I enter a geolocation, meaning that I go to a stadium and I'm going to see a game, in the future, you're going to see NFTs that are tied to your phone that as soon as you break the geofence and it knows that you're in the stadium, it's going to give you opportunities to buy new NFTs that you can only get at that time and place, right? There's NFTs that are going to expand and be able to allow you to do a lot of really interesting things. But, at the end of the day, the value is derived by two things. It's one, the community, how successful the community and how engaged that community is. And two, the value that the creators, bring to the equation in terms of what they allow people to get access to, or the perks that they give access to, and the value that they drive over time.
Let me ask you just about value again. Are you at all, and I guess you were at the forefront of this, are you at all surprised by the level of commitment and money that people are willing to spend on these, or did that not come as a surprise to you?
I think NFTs are probably one of the most revolutionary things that have happened in a long time, and I make it akin to something like the internet. I think it's that big of a big deal, and I think people just don't realize it yet. So I don't think, from my perspective, it's the same reason I'm not surprised, when Bitcoin ultimately hits $100,000 a coin. It will not surprise me at all, because I think such a small subset of people have actually participated in, Bitcoin or NFTs in general, that we're only scratching the surface. Once the real masses come into this ecosystem, I think the prices, will reflect that. Now, there is something to be said for supply, right? We get to a situation to where when NFTs first started, there was, not enough supply, and there was, more demand than there was supply. So the prices just went through the roof and got to irrational levels. Then more people came in, and then those irrational levels had to reset a little bit. And then you started really seeing, what people wanted and how to have a successful NFT, which is you actually had to have utility, you had to have value. So it really challenged the creators to say, okay, now I can't just put out a digital JPEG and sell it because it might not have value. I actually have to have some substance behind it, and I have to add some utility. Maybe it's gamification, and it really challenged developers to do something more substantial. And I love that. So this is going to continue to happen. There's going to be oversupply. It's going to reset again, and then we're going to have to all figure it out in terms of like what the users want and what collectors, deem valuable.
What are you seeing right now? What is the desired utility? What catches on?
There's a few different things. One of them is just access, right? You see like Bored Ape Yacht Club, you see CryptoPunks, you see these clubs, right? There's, 10,000 generative pieces of art that if you hold one of them, you get access to this elite club. And for the first time in history, an average person who got in and bought something for a few $100s that now is worth millions in the Bored Ape Yacht Club is able to go to these events with like famous stars and celebrities who also own Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? So it's a completely new mechanism for bridging the gap between the average person and like the celebrity style, folks that come into this space. So it's really interesting to see that.
Okay. What are you guys working on in the future? What can you share about what you guys are working on?
Yeah, right now we're just really focused on building the world's greatest marketplace, for NFTs, both on primary and secondary. So, we want to and are currently helping some of the world's biggest brands, come into the space in a really thoughtful and effective way. As I'd mentioned before, using the Dapper wallet, partnering with Flow and the Dapper teams over there to really help onboard the masses and do it in a frictionless way. So we're just really focused on that. We also have a set Ballers, which is a pixelated generative art set of basketball characters that's done extremely well. I think it's just surpassed over $12 million in sales. So we have a very vibrant community there. We've had NBA players and commentators and folks join in, and it's just really begun. So the utility that we will incorporate are things like games and in real life activities. And that's kind of an extension of your last question of what people want. They want games, right? So play to earn games are huge, IRL or in real life activities, right? Where you have access to really specific events and special, things that people throw, is really going to be a part of that utility for us. And then we also have another set, Rebel Rabbits, which is this incredible story. And the Rebel Rabbit is really indicative of, or encapsulating that of, this feeling of decentralization and really represents, the entirety of the crypto movement. That's a great story, has a comic attached to it, incredible art. That's its own vibrant community on the Ethereum blockchain as well. So, we're focused on a few things, just a few independent sets, but primarily, like I said, bringing in, the masses, the next 10, 20 million people we're trying to bring into the NFT space so they can understand it and trade effectively without any friction.
It's very cool. Jeremy Bourne is the founder of NFT Genius. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
On the next Future Sport podcast, tech is helping fans connect to modern high-end sailing.
When we started SailGP, we were really lucky that we had a white piece of paper in front of us. We had no legacy contracts, no legacy hardware, we had the ability to do what we wanted. So we could have said, let's copy what every other events are doing and take huge amounts of equipment.
That's Warren Jones, Chief Technology Officer for SailGP, where life on the water is so much more high-tech than you'd ever believe. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein.